Welcome back to the Wealthy Cowboy Show. We are live again today with John Kealey. If you go back, he was episode 3, I believe. You can hear his a crazy story. He's my boss and my mentor still at Diversified Payments, and to listen to everything that he went through, it was pretty awesome. So I suggest if you haven't, go back and listen to that one or listen to it again. But if you listen to that one, you'll kind of know where we're going to go today. This episode, we talk about winning a lot in life, and you know, social media and Facebook and all that stuff. You see all the wins that everybody has, but today we're gonna talk a little bit about loss and losing and failure and how you can bounce back from that. Because John, he's up right now, but he's built so many businesses, but he's lost and he's failed, and it's kind of just led up to becoming more and more successful every time he builds something new. So how's it going today, John?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me back. Pleasure.
Yeah. It's crazy, your story, everything that you started and you went through, and we've talked about this before about like all the failures and the losses, and like how that's what really builds a person is those down times, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you can get the wins without the failures, and those failures are what help you to like rebuild, refocus, and to excel, to get ahead and make things better.
What was your mindset back then? Like, to rebuild, like a lot of people, like I see this a lot, like a business owner or somebody who wants to go out on their own, be an entrepreneur or whatever. They branch out and they have just a little bit of, something happens, a little bit of hard luck, a little bit of hard times, something happens, and, they want to give up and go back to security. What drove you? Like you built that first business up and sold it out, and then got in the new business and lost it and blah, blah, blah. And you went back and forth several times. Like, what was your mindset that whole time to get through those lows?
Yeah. I mean, for me, listen, it was a lot different. I didn't have a safety net. I didn't have anything to fall back on. I didn't have a college degree. I didn't have a work experience or any work history to fall back and say, hey, this didn't work out today. Let me go back to that comfort zone. It didn't exist for me. So I had to make it work. It was survival of the fittest for me to get out there and make that business work. And as I started to figure things out, you're taking one step forward and 2 steps back, like so many times. You're trying something, you fail, you go back, and then you see somebody else doing something different, or you start to learn. Now we have social media, all these different outlets that you could learn from. But, I'm going back like before Facebook even existed, before social media and all this stuff that's available. I mean, you really had to either have like a mentor to help you or other people that you could shadow and be around and follow to learn. So I think for me, I always wanted to be better. If I saw a guy driving a nicer car, living in a nicer house, being more successful, I was just always hard on myself by nature and look at myself like, man, I want to be that guy. I want to follow this guy's footsteps and follow his tracks and find out, what is he doing? How does this guy get up in the morning? What does he eat for breakfast? What is his routines, his habits that he's doing to be more successful? And how can I mold myself to be more like them?
Yeah. Like when you went through the hard times though, like we all see, like you saw what motivated you was the nice things and stuff. Yeah. And, but when you have those crashes, were you like, I'll just build it back again? Or did you, like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Like, I have to build it, or did it give you confirmation? Like, hey, I've done it before, I can do it again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like you knew how far you got, and then you kind of go back and rewind. So there was a time in my life when I was doing good in real estate, and it was really, really tough. I landed in California, didn't know anybody, didn't have any safety net. And I started like selling houses and doing mortgages. And I was barely getting by. Like the first year I had so many setbacks, so many losses financially that I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to overcome this. I got involved with like pay-per-click marketing for the very first time. Before it was Google, I think it was like Yahoo. So I'd sold a couple houses, had a little bit of money in there. And I'm thinking, all right, let me do some pay-per-click and put this keyword in, and I'm going to get all these people to call me. Well, it worked. I mean, my phone was ringing off the handle, but I got home that day. I was in the grocery store trying to check out, and they're like, yeah, your card's declined. I'm like, oh, there's like $6,000 in there. So I go back empty-handed and log onto my computer, and bank account's zero. So I'm like, oh my God, what the hell happened? And it's all those Yahoo pay-per-click ads. So it was my own fault, right? I didn't realize, I didn't know anything about it. And it was all new. So I'm like, I put in whatever it was, a popular keyword, and it just blasted over the weekend. My bank account was dry. So I'm like thinking, I'm done. I'm going to pack my bags up. Like, I got to find my way back home, figure out what am I going to do? Like, how, I'm at zero financially. Can't pay rent, can't buy food. I go back into the grocery store that day, and I had, I don't know what, maybe like $12 or so. And I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to eat for $12. I mean, I'm deciding between like a dozen eggs and a loaf of bread, can of beans, like really trying to figure out how I'm going to survive. And my phone rings like in that minute. And it's this lady calls, and she's like, hey, I've got a house in Chicago. I'm trying to get to California. I'm going to fly in tomorrow. I want to look at properties and stuff. Are you available? So boom. I mean, I don't have money to put gas in the car to get there, but I did it. I found a way to get down there and do it. I worked my butt off to get that deal done. And I sat back after that deal was done. I made a bunch of money on that. I took a trip and I went to Costa Rica right after that by myself. No friends, no family, no nothing. And I literally had like a regrouping kind of session of my own. I was sitting in a hammock and I'm just sitting there thinking, man, what did I do good this year? What was I really good at? What did I suck at? And what could I have done better? And I kind of mapped out that whole deal, and I threw that piece in there. It's like, God, the marketing worked. I'd never tried marketing. The marketing piece worked, but I failed at knowing and understanding like what to do to how to do it good and be successful. So I'm like, I'm going to go back. I'm going to spend more time learning on how to do the marketing so that I could use that to catapult my business and to do better. So, you go from zero to hero in a course of like 6 months. I come back, sold that property, got back on the map, made money, took the time off to kind of regroup and retrace my steps, figure out, do a self-assessment on what I was doing good, bad, and where I needed help, learned. And then I kind of segued into print marketing. Again, the internet was still like relatively new, not as, the print was still like super popular, but I started running ads in there. And I mean, it was just one of the things that really helped me to catapult, to expand, to scale, build a team off of that.
And you think it was just, I think that's super important to like have some time to think and like it, and especially when you have no money, nothing, no money to put fuel in your truck, you have no money to pay any bills. You're like, how can I make some money, and that's where like a entrepreneur really thrives, I think, like, cause if you just know a job, you tie money to like, well, I got to have a job. The job is going to pay me, and that's like all I can get. And like you get to thinking, your mindset, my mindset, a business owner, entrepreneur's mindset, it's like, no, I can create money. And it's like a different mindset, and being able to sit down and think and like, how can I create some money? How can I? And then, like you said, you took it and you're like, that worked. So let's do more of it. And then went into that field. Was it like or you always going towards a mentor, like, and just seeking opportunity, trying to seek those successful people out? Do you think that's what really, really catapulted you up?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it was probably one of the most valuable things I had, to get started. I was brand new in real estate, and there was an older gentleman in that office who just kind of took a liking to me. I started spending more time with him. Let me go to lunch with you. Let me follow you. And you start listening to people who've been there, people who are doing it, get that advice. And I think if you listen more, you learn more. So many times, I'm a perfect example. I've gone through periods of my life that I thought I was smarter than everybody. Hey, this guy that's 50, 60 years old, he's been there and done that. Man, this guy doesn't know anything. I know it all. I'm going to do it. And I rolled the dice and lost, and I go back and I'm like, God, you are so right. You are so spot on. So there's a lot of value, in that mentorship and learning from people who've been there, who've done something. And I think we have to like put a lot of credit in that and listen to it.
Yeah, I think like we always like a younger person is going to have new ideas, and technology's changing so much. There's some things we can implement with technology that's different, but the older people that have been successful, been there, done that, I don't think like a whole lot changes. The first principles of business, the first principles of money and people and human nature and all that stuff really, I think, kind of stays the same. You might change the tools a little bit and some different things, but I mean, you go back to, like I'm going through the Bible right now. You can go back all the way back to that, and a lot of those principles can
Yeah.
be applied today.
Yeah.
You go back to the sales books and stuff like that, the old sales trainers and marketing people of the early 1900s or whatever. A lot of those things are the same. The attention, where the attention is, and like it might be in a different spot, but the way you get it is the same, and
Yeah.
human nature is the same. So it's yeah, I mean,
Fundamentals and systems, really.
mhm.
I mean, the fundamentals are basic. They, like you said, they haven't changed over the years. The systems evolve, but those fundamentals are key parts of that system to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what like everything I've learned, like the marketing and sales is like in business, like operate on first principles. Like you can't go on trending things and stuff like that because that stuff's always changing. But if you go on first principles of how to make money, how to get attention, how to market, how to sell, how to create a product, how to create an offer, all that stuff, it stays the same over the years. And the fundamentals, like you said, the basics, it's the same thing, and you can go back and learn, and you'll probably want to put your own spin on that, like go back and learn from an old mentor or listen to those old books and trainings and things like that and put your own spin on it and change it up maybe a little with technology and stuff.
Yeah. I think in business and life, listen, I look at it like you can be lucky or you could be successful. There's a great difference between the two, and lucky is a guy who walks out the door and just kind of bumps into an opportunity and it clicks and making money. But it's right then and there. There's no system, there's no training. I mean, that's pure luck. But success is when you go ahead and you evolve, you take those fundamentals, you put it into a system, you follow it, you change your habits, your discipline. I mean, everything. You eat, sleep, drink, and repeat, that process. And that's what creates the success in life, in business, and just about anything that you could do.
Yeah, you talk to a lot of the successful people, and a common question is like, if you lost it all, could you get it back again? I say, yeah, absolutely, because it's not the things and the money and all that. It's like the knowledge that they got. They're not afraid to throw it back out there because they know how to get it. Once you learn that skill of how to create it, then you can do it again, even in a different industry or anything like that. And you've done that,
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, does that just take time, or
I think it takes grit, and I think it takes a lot of time, more time than most people are willing to put into it. It's not a 9 to 5 deal. I mean, it's morning, noon, and night. I mean, I've had times that I've been up till 4 o'clock in the morning trying to learn something or figure something out. It just you've got to put in the time, and you've got to just fully engage yourself in learning all that you can learn, however it is, whatever it is, to be successful, to kind of bounce back or to get ahead.
Yeah, I always ask, or not always, I ask a lot of people, what's one skill that you think is the most important to develop to become successful?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Everybody answers different, and I have my own thoughts. I think communication, sales, like selling if you can sell, you can make a lot of money. I've heard perseverance. You got to be able to go ride out the downs and the ups, and be able to stay in the game long enough to be successful. I think Warren Buffett talks about that. Warren or Charlie One, they're like, you got to be in it long enough. got to survive long enough to become successful, become wealthy. But what do you think it is?
For me, I think it's a tie between sales and marketing. Because if you've got a rock solid marketing plan, I mean, you're driving the sales. People are coming to you. They're wanting to buy from you or do business with you. And then sales, it's a lifeblood of every business. If you're not getting sales, you're not making money. You're not making money. There's no path to success.
Mm-hmm.
There's no wins. But I think that, having a solid foundation in both, and a lot of people take sales for granted. They think, oh, I'm a salesman, or I've been in sales for so many years. But you go back and you look at some of these positions that people have or some ideas they have of sales. I know a lot of guys that are just order takers, reorder takers. It's like, hey, how many new sales have you got this year? Oh, no, they're just re-ups,
Mm-hmm.
people calling it. That's not sales, sales and starting a business and building to be successful. I mean, I think that's probably number one. If I really had to pick between sales and marketing, that's number one. Because no matter what it is, you've got to sell. You're starting a restaurant or food service business and you have no money to get started, go to a farmer's market and start selling your product. Sales, and then you start making that money, you evolve into marketing to try to drive more people to your website. And then you make enough money to evolve to be able to go get the restaurant and get the location. And I think that's the same with anything. So the sales, I would probably say, is the core,
Yeah, getting paid is, that's going to be, you can't have a business if you're not getting paid. If you're trying to run a for-profit business, you're not going to get very far without any money.
Yeah.
And what really got me thinking about that was Andrew Tate. I watched one of his videos and he's like, if I'm going to start a business, and a lot of people have said this too. I've heard is like, I want to know if there's demand for it. So I'm going to go out there and market it. And then if I get some orders, maybe I take a deposit, or maybe I, tell them shipping's delayed or something like that.
Yeah, I heard
but
that.
you take the order and you're like, okay, this could be a marketable thing. Or like if you don't get enough orders and you don't think it's going to be a business, then you just refund the money and nobody cares, But it's like the first thing I want to do, what he said is the first thing I want to do is get paid, and then I'll figure out how to fulfill it.
Yeah.
And I've heard of several people kind of getting started that way, and taking a risk, like that. That's kind of sticking their reputation out there. I can't remember who I was listening to the other day, but they were talking about that. Anytime they're going to do something new, they put it out there as a pre-order or whatever, take a deposit on it, see how much demand there is, and it's like, okay, now let's create that product.
Yeah.
And then run a campaign behind it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Some quotes that I went through your social media and found that I think are good points. There's a difference between interest and commitment.
Absolutely.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, you could be interested in a lot of things, but if you're not going to make the commitment to get started and to see it through and to put in the hours and to put in the work, I mean, the success isn't going to be there. There's a lot of people that are interested. I mean, there's probably millions of people right now that are listening that are thinking, man, I'm so interested. I'd love to start a podcast. But there's a commitment that you have to put in to do it. There's steps that have to follow. There's time. You have to put that first step in to get started. And, that's the commitment for anything.
Mm-hmm. I heard, I know you listen to him too, Myron Golden. He talks about deciding, and he breaks down that word. It goes back to Latin, I think, and I don't remember what the breakdown is, but it's, it goes back to cutting everything else off. It's like to cut off or something is what it comes from. And he's talking about like when I decide to do something, I cut everything off. A choice is just, you want to drink this drink or that drink or whatever, these little deals. But like when he decides to do something, he's cutting off all other choices. You decide to get married, you decide to start this business, you're not jacking around. You're going to go all in and you're going to decide to do it. You're going to do it,
Yeah.
You're going to quit. You decide to quit smoking. You decide to stop another habit or something like that.
100%.
Another one was successful people don't have different problems. They just have different solutions.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Gosh, that means so much. I mean, really, just with anybody's got the same problems, you wake up, you have a bad day, whatever it be. But I mean, if you're going to be successful, there's two guys that have the same exact problem, that are two entrepreneurs that are starting out and have the same exact problem, whatever it be. One guy figures out a solution while the other guy decides to quit, and that solution is that's the creativity that you have to have and develop as an entrepreneur to figure out what you can do differently to be successful. How are you going to differentiate yourself? How are you going to fix that problem? How are you going to be creative to make it work for you versus the other guy who's just going to fold and quit because he's like, man, this is the only way I know how to do it, and it didn't work that way, so I'm done. I'm going to check you out.
Or focus on the problem, like I can't get anybody to answer. I can't get anybody to buy my product. I can't do this or that. And it's like, it must not work. Well, it worked for somebody else. If somebody else can do it, it can be done.
We're in merchant services sales. The business, tough business, right? I mean, it's the last topic that any business owner ever wants to talk about because they had a bad experience somewhere down the road. They don't feel confident. They don't, understand it. And they just, hey, the devil I know is better than the devil I don't. Mm-hmm. And 99% of the sales reps are going through the same exact process. Telemarketing, knocking on the door. Hey, I could save you money on your rate and fee. I could save you money on your rate and fee. And the level of success in that is so low. But if you think about that process, my success came from differentiating from the pack. I want to be different. I want to figure out how to make those wins. I want to lead with a different approach and more of a financial aspect. Hey, I want to introduce myself. I want to ask you questions about your business and find out where I can implement those savings. Okay. So instead of just hitting the door and saying, hey, I want to save you money on your rates and fees, I want to have a conversation about, are you financially where you thought you'd be the day you started this business? Do you have the savings accumulated and the wealth accumulated that you thought you would have? You've got kids going to college. You have the savings set aside. Are the goals that you had back then when you started the same goals you have now? When's the last time you took a vacation with your family? Did you fly first class or did you take the cheapest one you could find? If I could show you the savings here and how to make that money work for you, you can fly first class. You can accumulate the wealth. You can pay for the college savings. But it's a difference going back to that quote of the solution to the problem, right? The problem is, hey, nobody wants to buy. I can't sell. Nobody wants to buy. Everybody's closing the door. Well, find a different solution. Find a different path in that you can help someone and you can be successful with it.
Yeah. There's always a way, and anybody that's had success probably went around. You got to put hard work in. I've found I've jumped around chasing different things. And to have success, you're going to have to put some hard work and master it and also give it time. But yeah, you got to look at different solutions and think outside the box. Like you said, differentiate yourself. How are you different than somebody else or all the other people that are calling or knocking or whatever? What sets you, what are you going to do different, And I like, it was on, I think I heard it in something to that extent in Extreme Ownership, Jocko's book. But then what really sticks out to me is on Landman. We watched that, recently, and they had something happened out there on the rig, and he's like, we got to do this or whatever. And he's like, well, we're man down. And he's like, that's a fucking problem, not the solution. I want solutions.
Yeah.
And that's like, you got to focus on that solution. Like, and I think that all the time. I'm like, I don't want the problem. I already know there's a problem. Let's figure out the solution. If you don't have anything, then don't say anything,
Yeah.
Moving on, the next one. More is lost through indecision than the wrong decision.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to take chances. You have to take chances, and you're going to learn more from that. Basically the whole focus of this podcast here and the direction you're going with this is the losses. Without those losses, you're never going to get ahead. And if you're so scared to make the wrong decision that you don't make any decision, you're never going to know. So it's better to go ahead and make the wrong decision and learn from it. And at least, hey, I made a decision. I'm trying to move forward. That didn't work. Let me try again. Let me try again until I get there.
Yeah. You know, I thought about a while back, saw some roadkill on the side of the road, and you think about a deer.
Not eating it, right?
No, I didn't stop and pick it up. But you think like whether it's a squirrel or a coon or skunk or deer, whatever it is, and everybody's that's drove on a country road's probably been in the situation. Like you have the ones that stand over there and they see you coming and they may dart across, or whatever, no big deal, or maybe they'll jump back the other way or something. The ones that get killed are the ones that usually sit out there in the middle and they're like, it's real bad with squirrels, it seems like. They're like, which way do I go? Which way do I go?
And undecisive.
Yeah, you get run over.
Yeah.
It's like just make a decision, go one way or the other.
Yeah.
And it'll benefit you. If you sit out there and don't make a decision, then you're dead.
Yeah.
And I've heard Hermosi talk about, I'm trying to think exactly how it goes, and I think he got it from somebody else, but it's like something like money loves speed, wealth loves time, and then like indecision kills it all, or something like that. Poverty loves indecision, I think.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Thing.
That's a good one.
And just like you said, and like the basis of this, the loss, you want to fail fast. Just get out there. You're going to fail. So just get it in your mind. I'm not going to be successful in my first venture, but it's going to teach me something to be successful in the next one. And I'm going to fail in that next one, but it's going to teach me a little, I want to be a little bit better each time, but I'm going to fail. And then just like failing as fast as possible. And then you've got to go through those lessons. So let's just knock them out real quick.
Yeah. Got to take the chances. You got to be confident. I think it's what the book Think and Grow Rich, where they talk about burning the boats, and going to the island. It's like they had to survive. They had to figure out. I mean, this is the decision that you're making, and success is imminent.
Do you think that when you built these business up and lost out? I mean, you lost because of the market. You lost because of different things. You lost some things you might could have avoided, but like, did that teach you more than the success did? Do you think the success came too fast sometimes, or?
No, I don't think the success ever came too fast for me, but I think that I didn't have the knowledge. I've gone in just on the cuff on almost every opportunity I've taken. I never had capital. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have standard operating procedures. I mean, I was a straight up gambler going into business. I had an idea and I was going to run with it. So I started building houses, started doing remodels on some houses. I had this great idea. I mapped it out on paper and I'm like, hey, there's about $180,000, $200,000 profit in these conversions. Did one, go to do the second one. Everything's lined up. Everything's going smooth. And then all of a sudden, shit hits the fan. The GC that I was using for the job took all the money and was behind on other jobs and was just, commingling funds all over the place. Everything got totally backed up. This thing falls apart. I ended up getting out of this deal alive. I mean, by the skin of my teeth, come out with like a little bit of money at the tail end of this thing. That's how bad it was. And my dad goes to me, man, I bet you're glad that's over and you'll never do that again, And I go, no, man, I'm all in. I'm going to do this again. Like, the math was 100% spot on what I projected. I just messed up and got the wrong guy. I didn't realize that, this could happen. I didn't even know that was a problem, So going back to that, I mean,
you learn from there.
You learn. I mean, your mistakes, sometimes they cost you a lot. Sometimes they cost your pride and sometimes they cost your pocket, but you gotta be able to recover from those. You gotta be able to have a positive mindset and look back and calculate what went wrong. If you're somebody who's just going to be like, man, I lost everything. Let me go get my job and punch the clock again and go back to that life I've been living. And, I tried it one time. Hey man, that's for you. What is it? Gus McCrae in Lonesome Dove says, what's what's good for me ain't necessarily for the weak of heart. You know, it's like, that's the mindset you have to have. I think in business, in life, in anything, really, if you want to be successful, you want to have a successful marriage, you want to be a successful parent, you want to be a successful entrepreneur. I mean, you have got to have that mindset of resilience and determination to fix the problems, to find the solutions, to take the chance making the decisions to be better.
Go listen to some David Goggins.
Yeah.
Can't hurt me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell people that, you know, it's not that you did anything wrong, you know, in some situations. And like people, like I've been helping people that want to grow their personal brand, you know, grow their social media. And a lot of times they're just not even doing it. They're not working on it, you know? So we got to fix that problem first. But sometimes I run into people, I'm like, hey, you're on the right path. Like, you just need to keep doing what you're doing. And I may not even like can help them at all. Like I'll tell them, but you know, it takes time. So like you may be doing the right things, but you haven't had enough time for it to really take off. You know, like I said a while ago, wealth loves time, and it kind of compounds what I've seen in my own life. Like I've talked about this before, and I can't remember exactly who. I heard it on Myron Golden's video, but like the law of doubling. So I go back to the podcast and YouTube subscribers. So you got to hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube to be able to monetize, to turn monetization on for ads. And so I was like, and getting there, you know, it doesn't pay you hardly anything, but I was like, man, I need to get 1,000 to start getting some money. And so I'm sitting there, I'm watching it every day, every week, every episode comes out, and I'm growing a little bit, getting a little closer. And it took, I want to say probably about 7 months, 6, 7, maybe 8 months, somewhere in there. And that would have been like 8 times 25 episodes, something like that. It was growing consistently, and I was doing the same thing, and it was growing and growing. And like I said, it seemed like it took forever, that 7, 8 months, 6 months, whatever it was. It's like, I'm watching it. Finally hit it. And then from that mark, in about 3 or 4 months, I'd already hit 2,000. You know, I'm doing the same thing, the same consistency, all this stuff, but time started catching up to it, and it started compounding a little bit. And so I went from, it took forever to get to 1,000, a little bit, about half the time to get to 2,000. And then I hit 3,000 the other day, and probably half of that time, probably 2 months, it took me to gain another 1,000, something like that. So it's getting faster every time. And that guy, he talks about that, the law of doubling. You look back on your income, your strength, whatever you're looking at, you're going to have that really long time at the start for it to all kind of start catching some momentum. And then it gets some momentum, and it just goes so fast that you're going to double, and then you're going to double, and then you're going to double. And it's just working on itself and compounding. It's pretty crazy.
Did you see that post Jocko just recently had about consistency?
I don't think so.
So he's talking about two people, you know, or an environment where he says, I just get up every day and I do the work. I put in the reps. I do the work every single day. And while you're looking at me and laughing, and you're going about your business and you're doing your things, and you're just thinking, hey, I'm so cool and I'm doing it my way. He's like, I'm still there every day. I'm there late. I'm there early. I'm putting in the work, doing the work. He's like, and at the end, he's like, I win. He's like, you're going to look at me later and see, wow, how did that guy get there? You know, but it's the consistency. And it's always like you see it with social media. I mean, you see now as you're building your businesses, I mean, no matter what the dollar amount is, your goal. I mean, let's say your goal is, I want to get to making $100,000 a year. It's uphill. It's uphill all the way till you hit that goal. But you get there and you look back and you're like, okay, man, I want to get to 200. I want to get to 300, 400, 500. What do you do? And I'm going to double what I did. You know, I'm going to be consistent, but I'm going to do it twice as hard or twice as much, whatever it is. I mean, it gets easier to multiply and to double and to get there once you figure out that, hey, I'm willing to commit, I'm willing to put in that time and be consistent.
Yeah, multiplication is way easier than addition.
Yeah.
Like to go a typical person that works a job, you're going to get, hopefully every year you get a little raise, $1, a few dollars an hour, a few $1,000s in your salary or whatever it is. But to go an entrepreneur or a salesperson or something like that, somebody that has their own, they're in control of their income, they can multiply their income. And like for me, and I didn't even know this was possible until a few years ago. I didn't even think about this. And to multiply, it's so much easier. And it seems like, man, I got into a deal, and of course your attention goes, whatever you're focused on, whatever your attention is, that's where everything's going to go. So I focused on, I was like, man, if I make $1,000 a week, I'm going to be doing good. And so sure enough, I made a little over $1,000 a week there, like cowboying, working a sale barn, hauling cattle, riding horses, hustling around, just working my ass off, leaving before daylight, getting home after dark, and working some more. And at the end of the year, I didn't feel any richer, but I sure felt like I missed out on a lot of fun. And
need a new set of tires.
Yeah, wore pickups and trailers out and all that stuff. And then I'm like, okay, we're going to go back to zero and completely change everything and see where that goes. And it took me 2 years, but now I've built it up to where I'm on the path to turn that yearly salary into a monthly salary. And it's easier than that hard work was,
Yeah, it is.
And that's what I've come to realize. Like the most meaningful check I've probably ever got was probably less than $200, because I'm like, man, I just need some money to go buy groceries and put some fuel in my truck, $200. The $1,000 checks, are nice, but those are, like, you don't even see them. They're going to pay bills or whatever.
Blood money that you need.
Yeah.
That day-to-day money, just survival. Yeah.
But now I'm seeing it. I'm like, and you read about it and you hear about it, and I listen to podcasts about it and stuff, and it's finally starting to catch up. I started putting in the reps and working on the right things, and I'm like, I see it, man. I'm like, I was trying to add a few $100s a week over here, add that, and now I worked on multiplication, and I'm like, man, this is the most money I've ever made, is the easiest money I've ever made. It feels easy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, I go back to, I think the real estate period in my life, that era was probably the most challenging, for me, because there's zero safety net. There's no pay. It's straight commission, and there's a large gap in between when you sell a house and when you get paid. You're looking at a 30 to 45 day window. So you got to have some staying power to be in there. And I go back to every single body was doing the same thing. These agents would come in and out of this office every single day. The new people, they just got licensed, brand new leather, little satchel there, suits, dresses. They were calling all their friends, going to lunch, doing all this stuff. And they'd close the door behind them as fast as they open it to come in, 2 weeks down. Oh man, I didn't get anything going. I got to go get a job, month in at the best, And I was sitting there at this little table, much like this, and I had a book full of these for sale by owners, And this is, I think most real estate people start out there. I'll try to convert these people into listings, And I'm sitting there putting in the reps, doing the dials every single day, and I'm going, man, this sucks. Like, I got to figure out what I can do to make some money here. Like, I'm broke. I'm taking my clothes to the secondhand store to get by. I'm like, man, I ain't going to wear that shirt in a minute. Let me take that in and get $12. I'm going down to Roberto's. I'm getting a big California burrito. And that's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I am surviving. And I finally start to think, we go back to taking the chance, making a bad decision. I said, man, let me shift gears here. These people are not wanting to list their home. They're not wanting to do this. Let me find a better solution, right? Going back to that quote of how I'm going to solve this problem. So I start calling these people up and I'm going, hey, listen, I know you don't want to sell your house with an agent. I get it. I respect that. I'm a new agent. I'm trying to get buyers. I'd love the opportunity to do an open house for you, absolutely free. I'll make the flyers. I'll put it on, do the advertising. If somebody comes and buys your house that day and you want to, gesture of kindness, pay me something, that's great, but I'm not going to ask for anything. The value in it for me is I want the buyers that are coming through your door that don't want your house, so I could take them somewhere else. I started clicking, and that was my focus. And I mean, like Jocko says, right, put in the work. Those were my hours. Every single day I was making the calls, setting it up, making the calls, setting it up. I was doing the open houses and I wasn't getting buyers. I mean, I just stayed on that path for like 60 days, 90 days. And then all of a sudden, boom, it started clicking. It was like 4 deals, 5 deals, 6 deals, 7 deals. I'm sitting back on, man, this worked. I put in the time. I had the vision. I found a different solution to the problem. Now I'm making money. And then we go back to kind of wrap what we're talking about now in the doubling. It's like, hey, I can only handle so much. I never forget the end of that year. I was buying a house and the office manager, I'm like, hey, I need my numbers, for the loan and everything. And she comes back, she goes, do you know how much money you made this year? And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm running and gunning, shooting from the hip. I don't have a clue how much I made. And she's like, you made $299,000. And it was like 99 cents. I was so mad about that little penny or dime, whatever it was. I'm like, damn, I wanted 300, Sounds so much better than $299.99. But you evolve. I'm starting to think, okay, I got to double this. I can only work so much. Let me start to build a team, and then you start to build a team. You start to scale. You start to get there. So you don't get there without, how many times I could have quit? How many times I probably should have quit, but it would have been easier to quit, to go find something to do, punch a clock and get a pay. And I'm not going to lie. There was a long period in my life, probably in my 30s, when I craved a job. I was jealous of people that had a job. I was. I wish nothing more than, God, can I just get a job so you can pay me like $500 a week? I would be so freaking happy right now. Like, I'm working my ass off trying to figure it out, and I'm struggling, But then once the magic happens and you figure it out, now, you go back and say that question that so many people ask, if you had to start all over today, how would you do it? Yeah, no doubt about it,
Yeah, because you got the knowledge and the skills.
No doubt about it.
And you lack that to start with, is why.
Yeah.
You got to become that person first and learn those skills, and then it becomes easy.
Mm-hmm. And it's heartbreaking, when you see people that have the potential, and everybody does. We're all built to win. We're all built to win and have the ability to do great things. But so many people fall into that safety net and that comfort zone. Shit, this is what I know. And you start looking at them, you're like, God, all you got to do is a couple more reps, man. All you got to do is put in a couple more posts, a couple more months.
3 feet from gold.
3 feet from gold. Yeah, it changes, it changes, and they miss it, and they miss it.
I just got done with a book the other day on Audible. 10X is easier than 2X. Have you read that one?
I haven't read it, but I know some of that book. Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. It's kind of, and that guy might have been the law of doubling deal, but he talks about, it's going to be a lot easier. Most people kind of, want to think small, and they think about, how can I double my income? Well, most people, if they want to double their income and they're in control of their income, they're just going to double their work. Like, okay, this marketing worked, this business type of people worked, they sold, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to call twice as many of them. I'm going to reach out to twice as many, knock twice as many doors, double your income. And then you're capped. Like you said, you can't go any further. You only have so much time. To 10X, you have to step back and think completely different. I'm going to have to work on completely different things to 10X. I can only get so far with my back, with my mouth, with my ability, my time. I can only get so far. I can double, but I can't 10X. That's going to take something completely different. And where that book goes is to like some successful business owner. It talks about real estate person, some business owners, some different things, some different scenarios that are real life that you could relate to. And, you have to you have to sit back and you have to start buying back your time, like Dan Martell says. So like all your little mundane things, you have to start hiring that out. And then you can focus on bigger things. And like, how can we get bigger? How can we do riskier things and bigger clients and land bigger accounts and all that type of stuff? But just the concept of, and this guy, he talks about, he's got a coaching business, and he talks about, like, I asked somebody those questions, what would it take to 2X, well, I do more of this, do more of that, do more marketing, do more outreach, whatever it is. It's like, okay, what would you have to do to 10X? And they're like, whoa, like to 10X? Like, I don't even know. And they have to think about it for a little bit. And it's like, well, I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd have to only focus on this other stuff. And he's like, yeah, do that. And it's crazy. Like something pretty recent, we're not involved in it, but I remember kind of reading about it some, but Elon Musk, people tell him like you can't build a rocket and land it back and reuse it. And, NASA's like, you're freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Well, he spent the time figuring it out. Like he didn't work on anything but that. And he figured it out.
Yeah.
Or how to get to Mars, like these huge things. Like he just thinks so big, but he's only thinking about those things, not the little mundane things. So he's focused on growing. And if you read I read his book a while back. It's a super long book, but that's how he is. He's a big risk taker, and he thinks really big, and he drives people hard, and he wants you to do it. He wants you to do something bigger than you ever even thought of, and do it faster, than anybody else.
Hyper focused on the vision,
and he achieves great things. Huge things. He's not doing it. He's not having a bunch of little wins. He's having freaking humongous wins once a year, or once every couple of years, every 10 years or something. It's pretty crazy when you get into and anybody can go, like you said, anybody can learn it. It's out there. It's YouTube, it's Audible, it's
putting in the time to learn it.
Use bookstore down here. Yeah. And then just learning it.
You'd be surprised. I mean, you were a great inspiration for me. I'm not a reader. I am now. But, when we got together, I could tell you I probably read maybe 3 books outside of school. And I didn't do too much reading in school either, Now I crave it. My wife and I have this like little book club every morning at 5:00. We get up, we read together, we talk about our books and stuff. But I can't get enough of it because there's so much value that's out there now from so many people in every discipline that you want, whether it be mindset, whether it's building the business, personal health and fitness and stuff. And, you go back to mentoring. Sometimes you don't have a mentor nearby or in your life, or a physical person that's available to mentor. And some of these people that you follow, the guys you're mentioning in these books, that's a form of mentorship in itself, and you start to follow these folks on social media, you're reading the books, and you're, in engaging with that stuff and learning and putting it to use. But you have to take action, you have to take action no matter what it is. You can, I was at a show recently, and it was awesome. Everybody's at the show, and it's a big tech show I was at, and everybody's at the show. And the guy's speaking. He says, man, for all of you who think you're doing something by being here, you're not. You have to take action after here. That's when you're doing something. Just because you showed up doesn't mean you're doing something. You have to put it in action. That's the same with mentorship. It's same with books. It's same with everything. Same with recovering from a loss in your life. You have to take the action, the steps to fix the problems, to better yourself, to get ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. The implementation is the hard part. The accountability, the implementation. You can go out there and get it all for free.
I think that was Gary Vee. Matter of fact, that's what it was. It was a Gary Vee show I was listening to. Did you ever watch Gary Vee?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah,
he's straight up.
Yeah.
Go like how I evolved was talking about getting started reading was like I was never a big reader either, and I got back several years ago and read some really good cowboy books. That's all I was interested in was cowboy. And so Ben K. Green writes these really good cowboy books about horse trading. He's got Wild Cow Tales, and they're all there. He's just a really good storyteller, and it was stuff I was interested in. So I just love those books. And then I I didn't know what a freaking podcast was several years ago. And Shady, I was sleeping in the truck. She was driving, and she turned on Cow Horse Full Contact, and it's about these cow horse trainers, and they were interviewing some older guys at the time. They interview some newer guys too, but it's all based around horse trainers. But they don't talk about training; they talk about your life story. And same deal. All those old guys were cowboys and stuff, and I was like, this is pretty interesting. So I looked up the podcast deal on my phone, subscribed to that show, and just started soaking. I'm just one right after another. Shady got me started, and I surpassed her like fast. I caught up to every episode.
Yeah.
And in like a week or something. And I'm like, I gotta have more of this. So I started searching it, and that Brad Lee's popped up, and I was like, this looks like kind of a cool guy. And I scrolled through there. I was like, oh, it sounds kind of interesting. Listen to one. Got in this business stuff, and then I remember hearing there's all these sales episodes and sales and leads and marketing, and I don't need to know any of that stuff. So I skipped over those. I was just hearing these people's stories of how they built a business in these different ways and stuff. And I'm like, it's pretty interesting. And I listened to all those, and I was like, I guess I'll go back and listen to these sales ones or whatever. I'm never going to be in sales. And lo and behold, that got me started in sales and then marketing. And then I was like, man, I wish there was like a Western business podcast, and I wish somebody'd start that. And that got me into this, and never say never, I guess. But
Right.
It kind of evolved, but it all started with just something I was interested in. Cowboy and cowboy stories got me into that path of soaking that information up and just learning how to learn and learning how to soak up knowledge, and just listen and learn and not just be goofing off all the time,
Yep. Yeah, I listened to podcasts. You got me into the podcast too, because I had really I didn't even know how to find it, how to start. I didn't know if you had to subscribe or what the deal was. And you had been talking about Brad Lee. So I think I found like Ed Milet, who was really awesome. I love Ed. You and me are going to that show. We're going to see Ed in March. But that was more on mindset and personal development and hearing people's stories of how they overcome adversity, how they dealt with losses, how it's the comeback story, the underdog, and I love that. But it's super helpful because a lot of that time you can relate, you put yourself in the shoes of those people, you could relate to it, and you start to listen to how they evolved, how they, recovered from whatever that setback was, what they believed, what their mindset was. Mm-hmm. You start believing that. I mean, everything changes. I do positive affirmations with my kids every single morning before they go to school, before they go to bed. Before bedtime, we pray and do positive affirmations. In the morning before school, positive affirmations. And I love to see it when they do it on their own, and they take that. But I do believe that those habits and all those things, and I would have never really known positive affirmations until I was listening to a podcast or reading a book and learning more about it. Now, mind you, some of these things I was doing before I ever knew it. I was a shadow boxer. I'd be in the mirror, but I would close myself, when I was in sales. I didn't really have training. I didn't have mentors lots of times. And I would stand in front of the mirror and I would talk to myself, and pretend that it was the customer. Hey, what's their objection going to be? How am I going to, what's my rebuttal going to be? How am I going to overcome it? So, I would kind of shadow box myself and close myself and go through those processes of training. And then I'd have my own positive affirmations, like, hey, I can do it. I'm a winner. I'm going to get ahead. I'm grateful. I'm thankful. All those things. And then you start to hear about it now. And I'm like, God, you know what? Take me back. That's exactly what I was doing at that time when my mindset was right. And when I was laser focused or hyper focused on getting ahead and being successful. And that's what worked.
Yeah. Mindset is the same way. Like I never thought about that stuff, just not that long ago, a few years ago. But the first step is believing that you can. And you want to be positive with yourself and speak positivity, and then follow that up And it's like, if hopefully you had really good parents that told you can do whatever you want to do. That is the truth. You can. If you're 5'11", you're probably not going to be NBA star, but there are some physical limitations, but you can pretty much do whatever you want to do in life. But the follow up to that is like, if you work hard enough.
Yeah.
That nobody ever tells you that because we get like a half dream there. You get to, baby, you can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. You're awesome, blah, blah, blah. And you think that, well, then you go out there and fail and you have no follow up, no context. It's like, but you got to put in the work. Michael Jordan's parents knew that he could go be the greatest ever. Tiger Woods' parents knew the same thing, but they also followed that up with, but you got to work every day. If you want to be the greatest, you got to put in more work than everybody else. Mm-hmm. So like, I think about that whenever I'm wanting to take on something new or go a different direction or whatever. It's like, what are my goals here? Do I want to be the greatest ever? Do I want to be pretty good? And then like, I have to align those with how much work I'm going to put in, how much time I'm going to put in. I know that if, I put more time than everybody else, I should be better than everybody else, or, depending on my talent level, at least in the top, top 1%. Yeah. But if I'm not willing to put that work in, I can't have high expectations.
And there's a difference between showing up and putting the work in. Just because you're physically there, going back to like Gary Vee, right? Just because you're physically there and you're not putting in the work. I mean, you're not, just because you're there, hey, I put in 40 hours a week, I put in 100 hours in the saddle. Well, if you're not trying to get better, you're not trying to improve. I mean, you're not going to get any further than you were before. Just because you showed up doesn't count, you know?
And that kind of goes into this last quote that I had was, you will never change your life until you change something you do daily.
Yeah.
I mean, is that kind of break that down a little bit? This kind of goes right back to what we were talking about.
God, that's a big question for me. I mean, it's number one, it's your habits, but it's it's your daily habits and it's everything. I mean, it's who you are, it's where you want to be. I mean, do you need to reinvent yourself entirely? And your habits are going to be completely different as to, hey, I've got to become and evolve to be this type of person and be perceived as this person. And I've got to take all these habits and steps to get there, to become that person. If it's a simple deal, I mean, no matter what it is, right? You're trying to lose weight in the simplest form. I mean, your habits, right? You're never going to be successful unless you say, hey, I'm not going to snack at, after 8 o'clock and I'm only going to eat this and I'm going to work out this many hours. I mean, it's a habit and you have to follow through. It's like resolutions, right? Every year, everybody has big New Year's resolutions. I don't even do them. I mean, everybody does the big gym deal, right? Hey, I'm going to join the gym. I'm going to lose weight this year. Gym memberships go up. The gym's packed. Come January 15th, I mean, the gym's empty. Nobody's there. Everybody's back to eating sweets, hanging out, going out, living life because they fall back into that comfort. Man, it was hard, and that habit is everything. You got to follow through. You got to stay the course. You got to embed those habits. Sometimes I call them like training wheels, habits are your training wheels, because the more you keep those training wheels on and you stay focused on those habits and that mindset, those habits just become normal. It becomes normal to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It becomes normal to lift weights. It becomes normal to make 100 phone calls a day, and then you take the training wheels off and the rest is history. Hey, I've developed this mindset. I've developed the habits. They're embedded inside me now. The path to success is just so much easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're doing those things, and it's not like you're trying anymore. It's just something you do. And like I talk about that some, like it's like changing your identity. Like you have to kill your old self off. Depending on what you're wanting to do. Like if you're wanting a 10x, you're gonna have to kill your old self off and reinvent. If you want a 2x, just do more of what you're doing. If it's working. But if you want a 10x, you're gonna have to completely reinvent, change your habits. You might have to work on your skill set. Probably work on your mindset a little bit to make big changes. It's going to take big action to make big changes. And to kind of wrap up, I know we didn't talk about it at first. You got some new stuff going on from whenever you were on last year. We're still in the credit card process and still helping businesses with that, save money. But now we have a whole nother solution that we can kind of offer in different opportunities. So kind of talk about what you've been working on, because you've been reinventing yourself doing that.
1,000 times. I mean, listen, I'm going to go back and I'm going to take you back 25 years. 25 years, you would have bet money for me. You know, if there was a bet out there that I was going to be successful or not successful, you would have borrowed the money to bet against me. You know, I'd been in trouble. I'd been kicked out of school, kicked out of high school, kicked out of college, arrested, faced a 20-year sentence, kicked out of the state. I mean, there is nothing inside those years said this guy's going to be successful. This guy's a winner. This is a guy that I want to be around and I want to follow, you know? So you take from there everything we're talking about. You got to reinvent yourself. You know, I went thousands of miles away to a whole new place, started a whole new identity, because the guy that I was before was not a guy that you were going to do business with, you know, and the guy that you were going to trust with your finances or anything like that. I had to become a better person. I had to become involved to all these things. Now today, I reinvent and evolve every couple of years. You know, I stay focused. We've got payments, and that business is always evolving with the technology. But now I'm learning AI and I'm building technology with AI. I've hired some developers and we're doing such cool things that I never thought a million years. You go back 25, 30 years ago. I mean, first AI was not even a thought back then. But if you ever said, hey man, you're going to be interested in technology and tech and doing something there, the last thing, you know, that was for the nerds, man.
Yeah.
You know, and now I crave it. I mean, I just absolutely love it. I'm all about developing systems and processes to make things run more efficient. I love the AI. I love what we're seeing happen with it. We're building out right now. We have in the works. I don't know if you tried. Did you try the AI attendant that we built yet?
No, I've just seen in the office. I haven't.
We built an AI attendant now that, I mean, it's voice AI. It's so lifelike that it's really hard to tell that it's, you know, AI. Most of the AI and those kind of robotic voices, this is really personal. But with the chat GPT and the OpenAI and all that stuff now, it can do things. It can have a conversation. It's referencing like websites and documents to come up with the answers to so many of the questions. It can book appointments on the calendar. It could redirect you to different lines and connect to people, but it's personal. So, I mean, it takes out when you're shaking and baking, right? And your phones are ringing and you're trying to get ahead. You're trying to 10X, 20X and get there. And you're that one person. I mean, you implement a system like this, it just streamlines the process. I mean, it cuts so much time off of your calendar, which allows you to be hyper-focused on the things that you're going to be most successful with. So that's kind of where we've been going with things now, evolving more to the AI to kind of help and the technology to streamline the processes and stuff.
Yeah, for businesses, I mean, we can help them kind of tie it all in together. We help them with their credit card process and save money on that. And like, hey, do you want to automate some of your business, automate some of this secretary clerical work, some of your marketing,
social media?
Yeah. I mean, I tell people that all the time. I'm like, hey, let's save you $1,000 over here. If you want to reinvest that to grow your business, besides saving the $1,000, put it into marketing, put it into social media marketing. You know, that's where the attention is right now.
Yeah.
Put it into that. And then like, hey, not only did we save you some money, you reinvested it, and now you've doubled your business.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's the vision, and I think for a lot of people, they're getting up every day, they're going into work, they're running their business, and they're just, hey, it's the same mundane tasks every day. The phone's going to ring. I'm going to take orders. I'm going to do this process at 6 o'clock. I'm going to turn the key. I'm going to go home. You know, but you start to think how you could first share that vision that you have with them and everything that we've learned and that we know now. You take the feed store, you know, this is a perfect example probably for a lot of listeners here, but you take an average feed store that's just got people walking in the door. Their customer base is local. It's only people that know who they are that are showing up there. They're buying the same thing. They don't know anything else other than when they walk in that door. And now you go ahead, hey, let's save X amount of money with the credit card processing, which could be thousands of dollars, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, the numbers are astronomical when you really take advantage of some of the stuff, but let's just say it's $3,000, $4,000. I mean, You implement a fraction of that into some of the automations with social media. You go ahead and implement an online strategy, and it's one product, one simple product now that you can sell online. You're posting sales and specials on discounts on hay that you have. People are going to drive. They're going to come from outside of town, people that have never been to your store, and they're going to find you. They're going to do business with you. You're going to increase sales. So if you're taking that savings and looking at it as a vehicle or a tool to light fire on your business and to take things to the next level, I mean, it's totally possible. It's really possible, and it's easy to do. It's not hard.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty awesome. Like I've been studying it. You kind of introduced me to it. I sent you a deal the other day. I took action and bought another course from Ty Lopez on some of that same avenue, using AI to help business owners automate their processes. And I think it's cool. And then also talking about AI, we're going into that. We're going into so much technology and AI and stuff like that going in to 2025 and here on out. We're making leaps and bounds with the technology these days. I also think that building a personal brand, building a business brand also is going to really accelerate a business. So that's using those to leverage AI, leverage social media to build your brands, your business brand, your personal brand, both of those. And actually that's going to help drive business too, because people like doing business with people. I do anyway.
That's so valuable. And it's something I just learned. I've had my brand. I was so focused on, man, is my logo cool? Is my name cool? Does my sign look good? Does my website look good? Man, nobody's coming.
Yeah. But who are you? That's what we want.
Nobody's coming. Who are people buying from? Who are people they're coming to me. People aren't saying, hey, remember this company? This is the company. They're going, hey, call this guy. This is my guy. And I mean, that's brand new for me. And I am all in on building the personal brand and really putting yourself out there, taking and dropping your guard. I mean, who cares?
And you're using that for your social media. And now you're starting your own podcast also.
Yeah. Thank you.
Or tell people a little bit about that, what you got going on with that.
Well, again, you've inspired me. So, you tell people that I'm your mentor. I think I probably got more value from you than you have from me. But my podcast is going to be called Built to Win. And it's really going to be just strategies, right? Mindset and strategies. We're going to be interviewing other entrepreneurs and business owners and people of all walks, really. I want to talk to people that have been successful. I want to share their stories, what they did, what they changed, habits that they have, systems that they use to get ahead and to be successful. Basically, champions aren't born, they're made, and I want to know what those habits are. I want to share them with other people. One thing I'll kind of put out there too is I learned through this process, this word hope, help one person every day. And that's really kind of what the inspiration became for me after I was on your first podcast, because I got an overwhelming amount of phone calls and messages from people, and I'm pretty hard to get in touch with if I don't know you. And there was a couple guys that landed in my, in my callback deal that I had conversations with. And one was just so inspiring and touching because it had such a positive impact. My story of hardship and just evolution, who I was and who I became, resonated with him. It gave him belief. It gave him purpose. It gave him hope that, and confidence that he was going to go on. And I was like, wow, that's meant so much to me that I could have that impact. Because I'm like, man, I'm nobody. I'm not thinking I'm some hero or some guy that's going to share knowledge or shine a light down on somebody that's going to show them the way, other than what I do, right? Hey, I'll show you how to make money. I'll show you how to sell. I'll show you how to do this deal. And the fact that I was able to help somebody out outside of what I do, and my story changed their life or had a positive impact, is what really kind of inspired me to get in there and take this to the next level. I think there's just so much value that you brought to the table to your listeners that anyone that's listening probably doesn't have the confidence to believe in themselves that they have some value to share and to bring, or mentorship to give somebody, but they do, and I think everybody was born to win, and that's why I named that show Born to Win.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's see, it'll probably be out a couple weeks or something, you think? Or
Yeah.
you think it'll release pretty quick, huh?
I think pretty quick. Yeah. You're going to be the first one on. So
Yeah, we should see that out pretty quick. Are you gonna build pages around that too, or just kind of just look up John Kealey?
Yeah. So my goal here is, I'm kind of backpedaling on this because it's brand new and I'm learning as I go. But definitely, we're going to have a website built out on there. I'm going to be offering some free courses and some free material for people that come through. So, any of the guests that come on, maybe they had a system or they have something that's of value to share with the group. That's what we're really trying to do, is try to build a community of like-minded people that are looking to get ahead, looking to get a better mindset, maybe better health, health, wealth, happiness, all the way around, in business and in the personal life.
Yeah, cool. So y'all check out John. I am John Kealey on Instagram, John Kealey on Facebook. Look for YouTube and podcast app of Built to Win, and keep up with it. Big things coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we'll see y'all next time.